Hi guys, I'm Claire Manning from Thirsty Brush and I'm back with some more card making and stamping ideas that you can try at home. Today we're going to do a monochrome stamping with this lovely lavender stamp, and we're going to use some of our metallic confetti watercolours. So here's the You're Invited stamp set that I'm going to use. So a lot of the sentiments here are to do with weddings, but we're going to make a different kind of card with this set as well. And we're going to use that lovely large lavender set, but we don't need the dies for this, we're just going to use the stamps. So I've got some really nice watercolour card here. If you don't have watercolour cards, okay, but do use a decent quality, say 300 GSM. I'd say maybe slightly chalky card rather than your smooth that you would use with your alcohol markers. You want something that's going to be able to deal with the water that we're going to use, so the metallic paints. So we're going to stamp on the large lavender, like I said, and I'm going to do it slightly off the page just to give it a kind of modern look. And I'm going to use some black ink here. I'm using VersaFine, anything that's waterproof, nice quality black ink, and I'm just going to stamp that up now for you. I'm using my Eureka 101, but you could use an acrylic block or any other stamping tool you've got. Stamping tools are great because if you miss a bit, like I have done here on one of the leaves, you can easily go back in and just top up your ink and press that again, giving you still a really crisp look to your stamping. So really, in terms of stamping, that's all we need to do. So next, if we take that piece of card out, and we're going to prepare our watercolours and start painting around that image. So just cleaning off my stamp there. It's really important to clean them off and then pop them back on the carrier sheets. That will make sure all your stamps keep lovely and nice and clean and will last you a lifetime looking after them in that way. So this is a 5x7 piece of card, so you can see it's a really nice large image that we've got there. And I'm going to use the Confetti ink GOLDMINE metallic watercolour paint, which was in our recent release of brand new watercolour paints, and they are absolutely fabulous. The pots are huge, so even though we're going to use a lot during this particular card, it doesn't matter, there's tons there. And I need a kind of medium sized brush. I think I've used, and a smaller one, so I think I've used a 5 and an 8 here. And we're just going to start by putting a wash of colour all around that stamp set. Now this did take a while, so I've sped this part up for you, and it takes a couple of coats for the gold paint to really stop that kind of streaky look. Now sometimes when you add more water, you do want more of a wash rather than really intense gold, but for this I wanted it to look really opaque, really smooth, with no streaks at all. So to get it to still move around the paper and around that stamped image did take a little while, and it did take a couple of coats, but I really think the effect is worth it. So really take your time here, go in with that tiny little brush and the tip with barely any water, and just get that gold in all the little nooks and crannies, and then dry it off and you can go over with a second coat. Just you'll see it starts to get a little bit more even. Go around again. Don't worry too much if you do lose an odd little bit of the black line. I'll show you how to fix that at the end. And between coats, just dry it off, and that will help you get a really, really smooth gilded look. You can see now I'm on the third coat and it's looking really, really cool. So it's a really nice look. So once it's all dry and all done, if you have got a black liner pen or even a black biro, and you could go round and anything that you might have just touched over that black line and lost it a little bit with your watercolour brush, just go over again and just touch that up. And I've even added a tiny little bit more detail during some of the leaves and the petals as well while I was there, just to make it really pop out from that gold background. So it really gives it like a nice kind of one layer card effect. We will add a sentiment and some gems on as well, but I wanted the image part to just be one particular image. So now I'm going to matte and layer that onto some black glitter card. That's going to pick up the black from the stamping edge and make it pop even more, and then onto a 5x7 card blank. So to adhere the gold stamp panel onto the glitter card, it can be difficult to get that to work with wet glue or normal double-sided tape, so I'm using this ultra sticky red liner tape. That will hold it in place and keep it secure. But then to attach that black glitter card onto my card blank, I can just use normal double-sided tape there that you'll see in a moment. So it's quite important to know which adhesives work well for which things. Sometimes it can be from trial and error, but I can help you with things like that, save you making those mistakes and then having to try again. So that'll be nice and secure on there. I've left just a little 1 to 2 mil border going around the edge of the panel that I've stamped on, and then that glitter card, and that will just help make my image pop even more. Here's the normal double-sided tape to hold that in place, and then we just need to add a sentiment, so I'll be stamping and heat embossing the sentiment in just a moment. If you're enjoying this video, do give it a thumbs up and check out my other videos on my channel. There's lots of card making, watercolour techniques and die cutting, other types of colouring as well. So if you're into this type of crafting or you're looking to learn, then do check out my other videos. So that's our card done. Now let's pop our sentiment on. So I've got a scrap of black paper here, or black card, sorry, and I'm going to do that What Would I Do Without You, being as the other ones are kind of wedding orientated and we're not doing a wedding card here. So I'm going to stamp this with my luminosity embossing ink and then use our pure white powder to get that real contrast. I like that white on black. So I'm using a static bag here to add a little bit of powder onto the card, and this is going to stop any of my embossing powder sticking where I don't want it. This is a sticky slow drying ink, and it's going to attract all that lovely white glossy powder and give us a really nice crisp sentiment. I'm going to stamp twice just to make sure I've got absolutely everything, especially with a clear ink or a clear stamp pad, because it can be difficult to double check where you've stamped everything out. Using a little scrap of extra card just to catch any excess powder so I can pour that back in my pot and there will be absolutely no waste. It uses a tiny amount of actual powder to stick to those words, so nothing else is lost. And then just heat set that to melt that powder, and our sentiment is pretty much done, other than maybe just trimming it down, as this piece of card is a little big. I don't want it to cover too much of my lovely lavender stamped image. When you're heat setting powders, just slowly move it across as you see each area melt. You don't need to waft the heat tool around as if you were drying some watercolouring that you've been doing, for example. You want to keep it as still as possible and just move it up and down the image until everything melts, and you'll see it's super shiny and clear. So yeah, it's a little big, so I've just trimmed it down, and then I'm going to pop it on with some foam pads in a moment. Let's just trim it down a little bit. You can see any of the heat embossing anti-static bag that I use, that powder has just brushed straight off. It doesn't permanently change the colour of your card or dull it down at all. It's literally just there to stop your embossing powder sticking where you don't want it. So I'm happy with that size now. So just to adhere it with some foam pads and finish the card off. I'm using some black foam pads from Create and Craft. I think some other brands do them as well, but that's really handy when you're adhering a strip of card that is dark onto your cards, because otherwise from the side your foam pads can be seen, so it just gives a really nice professional finish for your cards. Decide where you want it positioned. I'm using the grid on my mat as well to line it up. I am going slightly overlapping, so I'll just trim that little bit off, and finally just add some gems, and I'm going for some black ones this time, just to again really tie in with that kind of black, white and gold theme and give some subtle shimmer. So here's our finished card. So as I say, please do, before you go, check out some of my other videos, and do comment and suggest maybe some other types of techniques that you would like to see. I'm happy to add them onto my list and show you some other card making and stamping techniques. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I will see you next time.